Hey, it's Saoirse, and I'm finally back. It's the beginning, well, I guess you can't say it's the beginning of the semester anymore because I feel like we're already halfway done, but semester two is in full swing, and also it's been January recently, which means I've been sick for weeks. Love the beginning of the year, it's always like this. So, I actually managed to read a book for pleasure and not just for class. Amazing, right? And it happens to be I'm a Stranger Here Myself by Bill Bryson. And Bill Bryson is my favorite travel writer. He's hilarious, just one of my favorite writers overall. And this book, it might sound familiar, it was published in the UK as Notes from a Big Country because maybe you've read his book Notes from a Small Island, which is about the UK, and I think that was the first one I read of his, and it is laugh out loud hilarious, and so was this. I was losing my mind. So this is actually a collection of magazine columns that Bill Bryson wrote because his friend called him up in 1996 after he moved. Bill Bryson moved back from the UK to America, and this friend worked for a London magazine, and he wanted Bill to write a column on America for the UK audience. So he agreed to it, and this was published as a collection of those columns in 1999. And I just thought this was like a good time to read it because now I've been living in the UK for 5 months, and I recently went home to Florida, and you notice so many things like the convenience and the friendliness and the sunshine. And just so many funny little things that are different about the two countries. So I thought it would be fun to read this now, having just done that trip, and it was hilarious. So I want to do my normal thing and just read you like some of the things that really made me laugh. He uses a lot of hyperbole and exaggeration in his books, so like he'll recount funny conversations that he had with people, and you got to take it with a grain of salt because they probably didn't go exactly as he's reporting them. So each chapter is like a different little thing about America that he's noticed, like why everyone is worried. Friendly people. And I love the illustrations in this book too. So in this first chapter, I just liked this little paragraph here. The many good things about America also took on a bewitching air of novelty. I was as dazzled as any newcomer by the famous ease and convenience of daily life, the giddying abundance of absolutely everything, the boundless friendliness of strangers, the wondrous unfillable vastness of an American basement, the delight of encountering waitresses and other service providers who actually seemed to enjoy their work, the curiously giddying notion that ice is not a luxury item, and that rooms can have more than one electrical socket. I love that part about ice. Trying to get ice in the UK, it's like you're asking for their firstborn child or something. It's crazy. I mean, one thing I miss so much is just a big glass of my own ice water. And here you have to like share this container of water with the whole table, and there's no ice, and it's weird. Like, I just want my own water that I can control. But I guess that is just something I'm used to as an American, especially a Floridian. Like, we need ice in our drinks, okay? Nothing is ever cold enough for us because it's hot outside. It's not hot here. So yeah, I just liked that paragraph because I can relate so much. Let's see. Oh, also, my books are always in perfect condition, but can you see this crease here? I had 8 pages left of the book, and then my cat sat on it and bent it, but that's okay. It'll remind me of her. He's talking about fancy food, like going out to eat, and this is one of those things where he's definitely exaggerating what somebody said. So this is what the waiter said. Tonight, he began with enthusiasm, we have a crepe galette of sea chortle and kelp in a rich mal de mer sauce, seasoned with disheveled herbs grown in our own herbarium. This is baked in an inverted Prussian helmet for 17 minutes and 4 seconds precisely, then layered with steam wattle and woozle leaves. Very delicious, very audacious. We are also offering this evening a double rack of Rio Rocho cutlets, tenderized at your table by our own flamenco dancers, then baked in a clay dong for 27 minutes under a lattice of guava peel and sun-ripened stucco. For vegetarians this evening, we have a medley of forest floor sweetmeats, gathered from our very own woodland dell. I loved that. He's very creative. Like, I don't know if he's ever written fiction, but he's extremely creative with real life. And also, I have to say, I am so disappointed that I didn't know that Bill Bryson was doing a tour here in the UK for his new book, and I missed him. It was a few months ago. Yeah, I was so bummed about that. It's like, I don't know how I'm supposed to keep up with news like that. You know, where am I going to be getting that news? I don't know. If anybody knows about authors doing tours in the UK, just tell me. Thank you. Oh, here he's going to the supermarket or the grocery store and looking at all the things that, like, you wouldn't get in the UK, especially because this is, remember, the 90s. So things, of course, in 20 years, has it been 20 years? Yes, have changed, and a lot of American things have been brought over, but it's still, like, the amount of choice that you have in America as far as, like, food and pretty much everything is vast compared to Britain. So he goes to the grocery store and he says, also of note were cereals called Peanut Butter Crunch, Cinnamon Mini Buns, Count Chocula with Monster Marshmallows, and a particularly hardcore offering called Cookie Blast Oatmeal, which contained 4 kinds of cookies. I grabbed one of each of the cereals and 2 of the oatmeal. How often I've said that you shouldn't start a day without a big steaming bowl of cookies, and sprinted with them back to the shopping cart. A big steaming bowl of cookies. I mean, that sounds delicious. But yeah, I love that. Okay, this chapter is how to have fun at home. However, there are certain things that are so wonderful in American life that I can hardly stand it myself. Chief among these, without any doubt, is the garbage disposal. A garbage disposal is everything a labor-saving device should be, and so seldom is. Noisy, fun, extremely hazardous, and so dazzlingly good at what it does that you cannot imagine how you ever managed without one. If you had asked me 18 months ago what the prospects were that shortly my chief amusement in life would be placing assorted objects down a hole in the kitchen sink, I believe I would have laughed in your face. But in fact, it is so. I miss the garbage disposal. I didn't really use it that much, but now that I don't have one, and it's like every drain in this country is just always ready to be clogged and there's nothing you can do about it, now I miss it. Yep, it's the little things. Everything's just older here, you know? That's what I have to remind myself. It's just things are older, buildings are older, appliances are older. And so these new conveniences that we have in America, don't always get them over here. I mean, unless you have like a lot of money, then I'm sure you could get whatever. So this is a day at the seaside, and I just love this description of going to the beach. So Bill Bryson's wife is English, so he moved to Britain from Iowa when he was in his 20s, I think, and he met an English woman and married her, and then they lived there for like 20 years and moved to Hanover, New Hampshire for, I don't know, 10-ish years, and now they're back in England. But this was all written while he was living in Hanover. So he says, every year about this time, my wife wakes me up with a playful slap and says, I've got an idea. Let's drive for 3 hours to the ocean, take off most of our clothes, and sit on some sand for a whole day. What for? I will say warily. It will be fun, she will insist. I don't think so, I will reply. People find it disturbing when I take my shirt off in public. I find it disturbing. No, it will be great. We'll get sand in our hair, we'll get sand in our shoes, we'll get sand in our sandwiches, and then in our mouths. We'll get sunburned and windburned. And when we get tired of sitting, we can have a dip in water so cold it actually hurts. At the end of the day, we'll set off at the same time as 37,000 other people and get in such a traffic jam that we won't get home till midnight. I can make trenchant observations about your driving skills, and the children can pass the time in the back, sticking each other with sharp objects. It will be such fun. The tragic thing is that because my wife is English, and therefore beyond the reach of reason where salt water is concerned, she really will think it's fun. Frankly, I've never understood the British attachment to the seaside. I just love that. And it's funny for me, especially because I grew up on the beach, pretty much, in Florida. I lived on the coast. And I didn't care at all about the beach. I thought it was too hot and too sandy and just gross. And now, I don't know, I have more of an appreciation for it. I have more of an appreciation for everything. Of course, like when you get some distance and separation from what you grew up with, then you realize, I don't know if it's like how good you had it, but how easy or how different you had it. And I do live like right on the beach here in Edinburgh, and it's just different. Like obviously a British beach is different from a Florida beach. But yeah, it doesn't, I mean, I guess because it's winter right now, but maybe in summer it'll kind of liven up, because right now it's just very dead at the beach. But I did go for a sunrise once, and there were a bunch of dogs, like people just walking their cute dogs at sunrise, which was very nice, I must say. Where am I? 134. This is highway diversions. So he's got an interesting perspective because not only is he American, but he's also from a very specific place. He's from Des Moines, and also from a specific time. I think he was born in the 50s, I want to say. Or, you know, his growing up years were the 50s and 60s. Which means he remembers this time when you're driving down the highway, like so many Americans were starting to drive more, and highways were a big thing, so like advertisements to get you to go to these highway diversions were a big thing. Like, let's see. I have no idea. Oh yeah, visit world famous atomic rock. It really glows. Like, you know, when you see signs that say like, only 60 more miles until this, and oh, for me, like when we did road trips to North Carolina, there's this place called We're Nuts, and they just have nuts, and it's awesome, and I'd get so excited looking at the signs for that. So what I wanted to read from this one is, it's about license plates. He's talking about like the names for states, like their slogan, like Ohio is the Buckeye State, Indiana is the Hoosier State, Florida's the Sunshine State, of course. And he says, I can't criticize because I live in the state with the most demented of all license plate slogans, the strange and pugnacious, live free or die. Perhaps I take these things too literally, but I really don't like driving around with an explicit written vow to expire if things don't go right. Frankly, I would prefer something a little more equivocal and less terminal. Live free or pout, perhaps, or maybe live free or bitch mightily to anyone who will listen. I thought that was funny when I was hiking through New Hampshire and saw all those license plates. Like, it is very, whoa, live free or die. I just love the commentary he has about living in New England. Because, like, he's returning to America and everything's different because it's been so many years. I mean, think about the time period when he was gone, from like the 70s to the 90s. Think about the amount of like technological advancements that have happened, and now America is like obsessed with shopping and I don't know, television. You know, back in his day there were like 2 channels. So it's like this overload of everything. Like, it's just, everything is just more. I think he was used to, like, in England it was a lot more familiar to what he was used to because those kinds of advancements weren't as widespread, I think. Let's see, 152. Okay, this one had me dying. I was laughing so hard. So he's talking about ice skating with his kids. He says, I do know how to skate, honestly. It's just that my legs, after years of inactivity, got a little overexcited to be confronted with so much slipperiness. As soon as I stepped onto the ice, they decided they wanted to visit every corner of Ockham Pond at once, from lots of different directions. They went this way and that, scissoring and splaying, sometimes getting as much as 12 feet apart, but constantly gathering momentum, until at last they flew out from under me and I landed on my butt with such a wallop that my coccyx hit the roof of my mouth and I had to push my esophagus back in with my fingers. "Wow," said my startled butt as I clambered heavily back to my feet. "That ice is hard." "Hey, let me see," cried my head, and instantly down I went again. And so it went for the next 30 minutes, with various extremities of my body, shoulders, chin, nose, one or two of the more adventurous internal organs, hurling themselves at the ice in a spirit of investigation. From a distance, I suppose I must have looked like someone being worked over by an invisible gladiator. Eventually, when I had nothing left to bruise, I crawled to shore and asked to be covered with a blanket, and that was it for my attempt at ice skating. Oh, just beautiful. His legs getting 12 feet apart, I mean, I lost it. 213. This was just really fun to read as like, well, I do always get distracted. If I'm supposed to be reading something for school and I pick up something for pleasure, I will just never pick up the school book again and I'll just read until I'm finished with this. So that's kind of what I did, but it was so nice because it's so relaxing to just read something that is funny and light and easy, and the chapters in here are all like 4 or 5 pages. They're, you just pick it up, you've got a couple minutes, just knock a chapter out. Very easy to get into and get out of. But you do want to like just keep reading because it's so funny, so you could just binge the whole thing. Okay, this one is from, let's see, Death Watch. So in this chapter, he talks about how he was on a flight on a really tiny plane, and the weather got bad, and the pilot came on and said they couldn't see the airport, so they were just circling and circling and they couldn't land, and there's like mountains on either side, and at this point he's thinking like, how much fuel does this plane have, like is it gonna make it, and he's really thinking like he's gonna die, and it's a very unfortunate time to die because he was supposed to go home after a long trip and he's gonna see his kids and his wife is gonna have steak for him. And so finally the pilot manages to land the plane, and he gets in the car with his wife, and she says she's got cauliflower supreme waiting for him at home. And he says, "Life's a funny thing, isn't it? One minute you're praying to be allowed to live, vowing to face any hardship without complaint, and the next you are mentally banging your head on the dashboard and thinking, I wanted steak, I wanted steak, I wanted steak." And it's so true. Like, how many times have you been in a situation where you think, this is so dangerous, like, oh, please just let me survive. And then when you survive, you think you're gonna be, like, enlightened and stuff, and instead you're thinking about stupid, inane things again, and, well, that's just life, I guess. I've got a cat on my lap now. Ah! Okay. Let's see, last one. Oh, it's just talking about being in the library. And he said, "I took the book to that reading area that libraries put aside for people who are strange and have nowhere to go in the afternoons, but nonetheless are not quite ready to be institutionalized, and devoted myself to an hour's reflective study." I just love that because it's kind of true. Like, you see some interesting people at the library. I know it's terrible, I've said this before, but I've never been a library person because I buy books. Like, I'm a collector, so I have to own them. And can I just say I really miss having my library behind me? I have like, I don't know, 30 books or something, and I keep, like, when I go home for visits, I bring books home, like, as I finish them, because eventually, like, when I move back, it's gonna take a lot of suitcase space to fit all these books. But I cannot wait to just have my whole library back together. It'll be glorious. I don't know, I have all these plans. And, oh, real quick, I just wanted to point something out that I thought was hilarious. So, excuse me for a second. Okay. He says, "So when I say I don't understand most things, I am quite sincere. I don't understand chemistry, anatomy and physiology, mathematics beyond what is necessary to make small change, geophysics, astrophysics, particle physics, molecular biology, or newspaper weather maps, among much else. I don't know what an enzyme is, or an electron or proton or quark. I don't have the faintest idea. I don't even know my own body. I couldn't begin to tell you what my spleen does or where you would look to find it. I wouldn't know my own endocrine glands if they reached out and goosed me. So this is like late 90s that he wrote that. And then, what does he put out last year? A book called The Body. A guide for occupants, like literally a scientific book about anatomy and the body, and I just love that, you know, how he can go from saying he knows nothing about something to then writing a massive book explaining that thing. Like, I think that just says a lot about him. He's a very curious person, and just always wants to know more, and I think that's really admirable. So as long as he keeps writing, I will keep reading everything that he publishes. I also went and bought, while I was down in England visiting family, I went to this bookstore that I love, and I had to buy something, so I got Made in America, which is an informal history of American English. And as I've said, like, now that I've left America, now I'm interested in it. It is the weirdest thing ever, because I never cared about American history, American anything. I was just like, America, you're boring. You basic. I want to get out of here. Like, let me go to the UK. They got a lot more history. And now I'm here and I'm like, oh, America, you kind of interesting. So here I am. So this is the story of how what does that mean? How American arose out of the English language, like American as a language, maybe? Sorry, I'm just reading this to myself, that's rude. Yeah, it's just a lot of, like, slang explanations and history. Like, I've never really read much of his history stuff, because he wrote a short history of nearly everything, I think that's what it's called, which was really popular. He does always put history, like, in his books, like in A Walk in the Woods, which is about the Appalachian Trail. Highly recommend. There's a lot of history of the trail, and also, like, current stuff, like what's happening with the trail and conservation, nature issues of the forest being in danger. So there's always, like, commentary in addition to his own stories of, like, what he's doing, because he writes the most hilarious tales of his travels. So yeah, definitely recommend, like, go pick up anything by Bill Bryson, especially the travel stuff. It's awesome, and you will love it. And let me know what you think. And if anybody has read this one that we just talked about, what did you think of that? I'm so glad that I read it. Really enjoyed it. Just put a smile on my face, you know. It's like a great pick-me-up reading his work. So that's gonna be it for today, and I've got to read more stuff for school. We're actually talking about Villette this week. I'm so excited. I'm about to head out right now to go have a group discussion about it, and then tomorrow is the seminar on it. And oh my gosh, I'm so nervous because, like, I have so many things I want to say about Villette, and I don't even know if I can, like, articulate, as you saw in my Villette videos. Maybe I can't articulate exactly how I feel about this book and why I think it's so important. But that's happening this week, and then I'm reading The Bell Jar. Again, it's been years since I read it, so I'm very excited to do that. So that is what we have to look forward to. I'll probably do a video on The Bell Jar, and then after that, honestly, I could not tell you, because I have all these books I want to read, but also all the books for school. But we're doing fine, so let's say bye-bye. Okay, bye! Alright, I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.